we're going to run through my shoot, film, and scan Photoshop workflow. So if I've scanned this as a FFF file and brought it in from an Imicon scanner, this is maybe a drum scan, or I've scanned on a Epson flatbed. This is going to be my way in which I've dealt with cleaning up and color correcting a scanned negative. I also have Screencaster on, so you're going to sort of see my keystrokes with some shortcut keyboard commands, which we won't necessarily talk about in this so much, but you'll see them work like in this one where I hold down the space bar to move into my image. So I'm going to sort of zoom in. As you can see, maybe down below I'm at 200%. I'm going to maybe zoom back out. So now I'm at 100%. Great. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crop the image. So I'm going to go over here to my crop tool. You know, sort of recently in Photoshop, there's this delete cropped pixels function, and this is, I think, one of the greatest upgrades that Photoshop has ever made. I'm going to make sure that delete crop pixels is unchecked, and this will then allow me to crop an image, save it, come back later, and then actually go back into the crop tool, and none of that information is going to be gone. Yes, it might be a little bit of a bigger file size, but I would rather have a larger file size. Also at this point, you can start to see my images snapping to the grid. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and go to View and turn off Snap. And so when I zoom in, I can get like a really beautiful and fine-tuned crop. So I can go in and look at that axis, move up here, and look at this corner, move across here, see what's happening on that corner. And if snap was on, it would just sort of snap it to places that I might not be interested in having snapped to. Okay, so I've got a pretty good crop there. I've gone in, I've checked all four corners. I think that's a really important thing to do when you're cropping, rotating this with the handle out here. And now, as long as delete crop pixels is unchecked, I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. I think one of the biggest problems and the hardest things to deal with in a Photoshop scan is dust. And so how I'm going to sort of suggest that I dust is that I want you guys to dust everything before you start working on a file. So that's just the way I've done it. You know, get a podcast, get some headphones, do whatever you need to do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a blank layer. And I like to create a blank layer as opposed to copying the background layer, because this is going to reduce the file size. So, you know, I'm going to call this dust and scratches. You know, some people like to call it dust busting because it's fun, but I'm just going to call this dust scratches. You can see my amazing spelling. Boom. And the tools that I'm going to use for this is a couple things. I'm going to make sure that my rulers are on, so I'm going to make a Command R to make sure that my rulers are on. I'm also at this point going to zoom into 100%, and this is going to allow me to sort of see the dust at a 1-to-1 ratio. I might for this even go in a little bit further, you know, but 100% usually is a pretty good spot for me. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to drag grid lines, and look, this is about 1 inch at that full scan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a grid that's about 1 inch apart there, and maybe like this, so that when I do zoom into 100%, I've got like a full sort of image area, and I might need to bring this ruler up. So I'm just going to hover over that with Command, and I'm going to bring that up a little bit. And so now this gives me like quadrants in which I can dust in. I also might at this point sort of move my adjustment layer panel over a little bit so I can maximize the real estate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my dust and scratches layer. I'm going to use a couple tools here. I'm going to maybe use the spot healing brush, the regular healing brush, and the clone stamp tool. And inside the clone stamp is the pattern stamp tool, but whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to use these tools. This might be tedious, and I'm going to sort of show you some other tips, but let's see what happens when I use spot healing in these out of focus areas. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that sample all layers is checked and that I'm doing a content aware fill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a sort of fuzzy-ish brush, maybe a little bit under 50%. I'm going to do content aware fill, and then I'm going to make sure that all layers are sampled. If you want to do this with a Wacom tablet and use the pen, you can go ahead and if you want to do pressurized, you can go ahead and put your pressure size on for your brush. I'm going to just do this real quick the old-fashioned way with a mouse. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to use the spot healing brush tool, which does not require me to sample an area. And I'm just going to start to go through and get all of these larger areas. This isn't going to be such a problem when I'm in an out of focused area because if I'm doing my job, I'm not really paying attention to that too much, and it's going to sort of blend pretty nicely. So boom. Maybe you're going to put on some Metallica Seek and Destroy to let you like feel like you're getting the dust out of your life. You know, whatever is going to work for you. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to dust. Once I sort of feel like I've got that quadrant done, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the next quadrant. And I like to work left to right. Maybe I'll sort of paint this little group here. That's not too bad. I'm going to start to circle things like this. I'm going to start to go in and really just get all this dust.